At 7:04 p.m., my wife's sister said she could fix our marriage, then slid her hand over mine across the sink and broke it instead. The kitchen smelled like oranges because I'd just zested one for the salad. Domestic, harmless. A little bright-tanned June stood there with her sleeves rolled and her certainty on, telling me that love was a machine and some people shouldn't be trusted with tools. "Lena is fragile tonight," she said, voice pitched to the expert key she used for instructions and lullabies. "Let me talk to her. You just breathe." Her thumb made a small circle on my knuckle. Consolation first, then calibration, and the lights hummed, the way they do when a house knows more than you do. I should have moved my hand. I didn't. June smiled like a solution and went down the hall to my wife with the authority of someone who was born first and never learned how to open a door without owning the room behind it. It started much smaller, back at the beginning, when Lena and I were two people, sharing a studio that sounded like traffic and ambition. June had keys to every apartment anyone in the family rented. She had opinions about where the couch should go and what to do with the stubborn window and which plants would survive our habits. She was kind in the big ways. She showed up when we moved. She made soup when I got the flu. She lent Lena money once without making a spreadsheet about it. The small ways were trickier to argue with. She corrected my stories mid-sentence. She volunteered Lena for extra shifts before asking her. She said we about things only two people should decide. "It's just how she loves," Lena would say, tucking her cheek into my shoulder like a punctuation mark. "She's kept us afloat since Dad died." I told myself there were worse storms to sail with than a sister who insisted the compass be hers. The first time I realized June had a blueprint for our life, I found it printed and hole-punched in a binder on our coffee table. She'd titled it Stability Plan and arranged our bills into color-coded tabs with notes in the margins about late fees and energy saving, bulbs, and a grocery list that replaced the brand of coffee I liked with one that tasted responsible. "You're welcome," she said when I held the binder up. "This is what grown-ups do." I was a grown-up too, but my manhood had not come with tabs. Lena laughed and kissed June's cheek and said, "You're a menace and I love you." And I let it go because the rent got paid on time and the light switches were smug with lead virtue. June had a way of turning fights into projects. If Lena and I argued about money, June sent us a spreadsheet with columns labeled reality and feelings, as if our fear of not being enough could be itemized. If we argued about time, June made a shareable calendar and attached an article about micro-commitments. If we argued about children, when, whether, how, June sent a podcast and a pamphlet and a text at midnight. "You're overthinking. Happiness is a schedule." I wanted to believe her because certainty can feel like a hug when the room gets cold. My own family loved me by letting me fail in peace. June loved by demanding a pass-fail grade every Friday. "She just wants you happy," Lena would say when I bristled. "She wants us controlled," I'd say, and then feel small for making love sound like an exam. I am not innocent in what came next. I am guilty in clean, declarative sentences. I could give you an architecture of excuses. The night my job cut me to 3 days and I lied about it. The way I began sleeping, on my side of the bed facing the wall, because the ceiling sounded like expectation. The doctor's waiting room where Lena cried quietly into her sleeve because the word infertility had arrived with a pamphlet and a copay and the right kind of chairs for bad news. June found us on that day in the parking lot and folded Lena into her jacket and said, "We will navigate this," like a captain calling wind toward a ship she owned. She touched my arm on the way to the car and said, "You need to be more than brave." And I hated how much I agreed. The first kiss didn't happen the night June's hand circled my knuckle like a small, disguised wedding band. It happened 3 weeks later, after an argument about hope that turned into an argument about budget and then about who had permission to name what hurt. Lena said she wanted a break from trying, and I said I didn't want to be the man who turned our days into a lap. And we both said things about timing and fate and fairness that no one wins with. June arrived with takeout and moral clarity and sent Lena to shower while we set the table. She opened a bottle of wine I couldn't have afforded even before the hours got cut. "You to keep talking like your life is an equation," she said, passing me plates. "It's a recipe. Follow it or it fails." She said it with love and arrogance and a smell like citrus and rain. Then she took my wrist to move it away from the hot pot and somehow forgot to let go. I am not trying to make a metaphor heavy enough to hold what I did. We kissed because we were stupid and tired and vain. Because being chosen is a drug and so is being understood. Because the kitchen had become a hospital and we were both bad at being patients. We kissed because everyone thinks they're the exception until the bill arrives. We kissed, then we stopped. Then we kissed again to punish the part of ourselves that had asked for more. I heard the shower turn off. I heard June say, "We can never," and I knew we would. When Lena came back into the room in one of my old t-shirts with her hair like something you love because it doesn't obey, June hugged her and said, "We're a team." Eyes flicking to me the way you look at a fire alarm you already pulled. I didn't sleep in my body that night. I slept in a story where I was temporarily someone else. It didn't happen every day. That would make it sound deliberate. It happened in the stupid Maj's once. In June's car after she brought US boxes from Costco. Once on the fire escape because the cat wouldn't move from the doorway. Once in the hallway of my own apartment. Because June had stayed to do dishes and I had stayed to be a liar. We set rules and broke them. We said words like accident and never again and just this time and invented a grammar of cowardice. That made betrayal sound like a scheduling error. In between, June continued to manage Lena's pain with a competence that would have been a blessing if it hadn't been infected with me. She researched doctors and diets and asked my opinion with a new intimacy that felt like a permission slip. The worst thing is this: I didn't want to replace Lena. I wanted the version of myself I found in June's approval. I wanted to be capable and necessary and impressive in rooms where future had a whiteboard. Secrets rot the floor under the bed. You learn to walk in certain places only. I avoided the drawer where Lena kept our passports because my hands shook near documents. I got good at deleting messages like a man performing a magic trick for no one's applause. June and I used the most boring language for our conspiracy notes, updates, check-in, and still every ping sounded like a siren only I could hear. Sometimes I thought June loved me. Sometimes I thought she loved winning. Sometimes I thought she loved Lena so much she would burn down a house to keep her warm if warmth looked complicated. Most times, I thought I had broken my life into 2 rooms and locked myself out of both. It was a scarf that betrayed us first, a thin blue one that smelled like someone in a hurry. June left it on our couch tucked behind a cushion the way guilt tries to fold itself. Lena found it when she was vacuuming and held it up with that small smile people get when a coincidence is about to be a delight. "June's," she said, looping it around her neck and laughing at her reflection in the dark TV. "She's going to accuse me of stealing it." She texted a photo to June. "Look what I found rescued by the domestic fairy." June replied, "My favorite one. I thought I lost it. Keep it till Sunday." I watched texts land like snow on a roof that had already collapsed. The room felt colder because nothing had broken yet. The next crack was June's kindness used like rope. She insisted on coming to my job to surprise me with lunch after a morning appointment with a specialist. She kissed me on the cheek in the alley and said, "For luck, like luck can be arranged," then wiped the lipstick away like evidence. My coworker, who had known me since I was the kid who burned toast and apologized to the toast, raised an eyebrow I filed under later. That evening, Lena kissed the same cheek and said, "Smells like cherries," and I said, "Soap at work." And the lie was cheap and obvious and effective because the truth would have killed us both in the doorway. We didn't get caught cleanly. There was no dramatic reveal with a thrown glass and a stranger in a towel. Discovery came like wind under a door. The wrong message found the wrong phone. June recorded a voice memo from her voice lower, the one she kept like a secret instrument, and Siri decided Lena could use a reminder. I was in the shower when it played on the kitchen counter. June saying, "Don't come by tonight. She's raw. Tomorrow. 6 p.m. Ali, you don't need to be a detective when the clues have manners." I heard the playback beep and the small sound my wife makes when something heavy changes shape. I turned the water off, and the house went quiet in that expensive way only grief can afford. Lena didn't scream. I want to tell you she did because a storm feels like justice. She sat at the table with the memo open and the scarf around her neck like a joke that had changed sides. She looked at me the way you look out of a window you broke as a child and wait for your mother to find out. A mixture of awe and terror that your hands can do this. "It's you and June," she said. The sentence in autopsy that doesn't blink. I said yes, because a no would have pushed us into a third, worse world where I was still the hero in my head. She took the scarf off like it was a snake. "How long?" she asked. And I gave her the smallest number that could be called a history. She pressed her palms to her eyes and let out a sound that had no words left to carry. "My sister," she said, as if the phrase itself were a bruise. "My husband," she added, and the ownership inside those words was a mirror that made me want to throw up. She called June. She put it on speaker. "He told me," Lena said, And June started with the speed of a person who thought she could outrun ownership. It was a mistake. We were protecting you. It made us both feel. Stop, Lena said. And June stopped because there are older hierarchies than guilt. You have 2 hours, Lena said, voice flat. Bring your spare keys. Bring the binder. Bring my father's watch you borrowed. Bring the truth. If you have any left. June said her name like a plea and a brand. Lena hung up and put her head on the table. And for a second she looked exactly like the girl in the single photo she keeps from childhood, elbows on a picnic bench, hair in her eyes. A slice of watermelon. She was too polite to eat big. June arrived with a storm face. She tried to hug Lena and Lena stepped away. She tried to explain and ran out of verbs that didn't hurt. He needed someone, June said, and Lena laughed. One clean strike. You think I don't know what need looks like, she said. You think I didn't need him too. June began to cry the way proud people do, angrily, as if the tears are treason. I was saving us, she said. From what? Lena asked. From chaos, June answered. And I saw in that moment the religion she had practiced since their father died. Order as safety, control as love. You set the house on fire to prove the oven was dangerous, Lena said softly. You always did. June handed over the keys and the watch, and the binder, and kept her pride because it had been welded to her marrow. I can fix it, she said. Even then. No, Lena said. You can stop trying. I left that night because there was no position in which my presence wasn't cruelty. I took a duffel and a toothbrush and the version of myself that still thought he was decent and moved into a sublet that smelled like other men's dinners. June texted 4 times in 3 weeks. She's not answering me. Have you spoken to her? We should present a united front. Tell her what we planned. I wrote back once. We didn't plan anything worth keeping. Lena didn't text me except to ask about the cat's vet appointment and the utilities in my name. It's astonishing how quickly a life can learn new pronouns. Ours becomes yours becomes mine, and then the cupboard makes sense again. I wish I could give you a redemption I've earned. I can give you honesty and seasons. I did not go back to June. She tried to more times. Not with flowers but with frameworks. A bullet-pointed apology. A list of the ways we could restructure our family like a company after a scandal. When I didn't answer, she sent a single line. You loved the worst thing in me because it made the worst thing in you feel useful. It was true and terrible and not enough. Lena, who still answered her mother every Sunday and answered June never, sent me a message on a Tuesday that said, I painted the door. She attached a photo. Apricot. Reckless, joyful, alive. I stared at it in the dark and felt something in me unclench. That had been pretending to be a fist. We divorced in a courthouse that knew the shape of that word. We stood side by side but not together, and said yes to signatures, and no to blame, and the judge thanked us for our civility like a waiter, complimenting our order. Outside, Lena hugged me and I smelled oranges and a new soap I didn't recognize. I don't hate you, she said. I will never forgive you, she added, calm as weather. Both can be true. I nodded because arguing with the truth had become my most boring habit. I loved you, I said. I love you, she replied. But not like that anymore. She got in a cab. I watched the apricot door of the day close and decided to learn the names of colors I had never bothered to see. June sent a final email months later. I am in a program, she wrote. Not like a confession but like a syllabus. Control is a response to fear, and fear is a liar. I am trying to love without managing. There was no ask inside the message, not even the polite ones. I didn't write back. I hope she's right. I hope she teaches herself a quiet that doesn't require other people to sit still. I hope Lena's door glows in the evening like a decision that keeps paying dividends. In my new place, the Wi-Fi password is ENOUGH, because sometimes the only boundary you get to enforce is the one around your own mouth. I make a salad with oranges, and I wash the cutting board right away because the smell argues with everything else. I tell new people the truth in the present tense. I don't hold anyone's hand across a sink unless my wife is in the next room. I don't have a wife. Some nights I stand by the window and watch other people moving around in other kitchens and imagine a world where we listen before we fix. When I finally sleep, the house hums a little, like a fluorescent bulb deciding to behave. In the morning, I text Lena on her birthday. You did right, I type, and delete it, and type, happy birthday. The door looks perfect. She replies with a photo of sunlight on apricot paint and no words at all, which is, for once, enough.